The college basketball experience. Which SEC teams will have the most success after realignment? Edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8 challenge. Sign up today using the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Build your own betting model using their AI betting engine. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. And welcome, everybody, to the college basketball experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Monday night, July the 8th, we got a double header over here. It's like we're back in season 4, baby. We're talking SEC hoops, which now has 16 teams. And we'll talk about who they added, what that means going forward. But first, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. Also known as Mac tonight over at the college basketball experience. And hey, man, you guys just joined us over at the WCC. You will know I am not flying solo anymore because I am joined by, the guy that's with us every single night here over at the college basketball experience, the host of the college baseball experience, Road to Omaha, another great year in the books. You guys know him as Noah B77, a.k.a. Noah Bieniek. What is up, man?
What's going on, Mac? And yeah, the SEC folk, they know who I am, Mac. I mean, SEC runs the shit in college baseball. 6 of the last 7 national championships, all 6 of those won by a different program. And that 7th year in the middle of that span was Oregon State winning against Arkansas, which would have been a 7th unique SEC national championship team. Arkansas lost that College World Series because they dropped the fly ball with 2 outs in the 9th inning in game 2 when they could have won it. So it's like these guys know me pretty well after preaching the SEC for all spring, but a little bit antsy to get back out on the microphone. And you're running solo on college basketball. I'll be your shooting guard. I'll be on the wing. I don't quite have the size to be in the front court, but just dish it over to me whenever you need, and I can play kiss up with some of the SEC folk out there.
And ironically, guys, he's a Michigan guy, so he's extra happy. They beat Bam in the national title in football.
No, it felt like the national title. It was the Rose Bowl, but it
was
felt like the national title.
It was the national title because the winner of that game was winning the national title. I don't care what anybody says. Obviously, Michigan did. The SEC prides himself clearly on football. They're unbelievable in baseball, but you can make an argument that in the last 3 to 5 years, they have made as big a strides as any conference in college basketball. And I think we were talking pre-show, you got to circle the hires. What the way that they've invested in these programs. And I put out a tweet when expansion happened, July 1, when Texas and Oklahoma officially jumped from the Big 12 to the SEC after 3 years of being rumored or it had been agreed upon. They're officially in that league. Over that, they did a 10-year sample size of average wins, and it was the SEC average teams were averaging 19.3. I did a deeper dive. Over the last 3 years, their SEC teams are averaging 20.3. And you might say, well, that's just one win. That's more than any other league, especially within the Power 5, and it's not even really that close. When you can average one win per team across your league, that means you're 2 to 3, 4 to 5 wins better among multiple teams in your league. And Alabama's the first one that comes to mind. Nate Oats, Texas A&M investing with Buzz Williams, that comes to mind. Chris Jans with Mississippi State, that comes to mind. Tennessee with Rick Barnes has been a model of consistency. The Must Bus with Arkansas. Texas says, I know they're joining from the Big 12. They've been on an upward trajectory. And then Florida validating it with Todd Golden over the last couple of years. Really, the only program that's kind of taken a step back here is the Kentucky Wildcats.
Yeah.
And that's why Calipari's going over to Arkansas. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the SEC and the trajectory with the investment in basketball?
Yeah, you talked about it with the coaching hirings, 2 ings in a row was screwing me up there. But it's also like comfortability and also like not feeling the smoke under your ass when you're the head coach at these places, because then you're able to schedule well. And then when you're scheduling well in the non-conference, then you're building up your brand and your respect for your program. You look at Bruce Pearl and Nate Oats in the 2 Alabama schools specifically. Those 2 guys do it some of the best out of anybody else out there. Like Pearl's hitting the road to some mid majors every other year, and Nate Oats is once again got one of the most challenging non-conference schedules in the country.
Yeah, I don't even think I'd mentioned Bruce Pearl in there just because he's been there 8-9 years, but what he's been able to do, go to a Final Four in the last 5 years where they were arguably a debatable foul call from getting away to the national championship. So we're going to rank all 16 jobs / which programs we think are even more on the upward trajectory
over the
this
5-year span.
5-year span. So we're talking about success over the last 3 to 5 years. Now we're going to project the next 3 to 5 years on the other side.
Let's talk about the 2 new additions though to this conference real quick before we.
I don't want to talk about fuck those schools.
we've got 2 new additions. The SEC, being one of the bigger conferences, didn't have to, take a hit and lose a couple of teams. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe down the road they might be booting some teams from this conference, but we're not quite there yet. 2 new additions, no new subtractions. Like I said, Texas comes in under Rodney Terry. They went to the Elite 8 with Terry at the helm. He finished the year after Chris Beard was fired or let go or whatever you want to punctualize that with. In 2023, they've had 4 straight NCAA tournament appearances, 2 of them, again, with Rodney Terry. What are your thoughts on the Texas Longhorns entering the SEC as a program?
So with Texas, I honestly thought that they were good enough to win the national championship 2 years ago. I think if they could have not blown that lead against Miami, I think that they may have beaten UConn. I don't know if they would have beat UConn. It would have been a hell of a game. I think they had the size and athleticism to match UConn. But I think, man, if they had Chris Beard, that was the main thing. If Chris Beard could have stayed running that show, I think he could have got him to a national title. I'm still a little iffy on Rodney Terry. I think he deserved the job. He's done a decent job there, holding it, making it sustained success. But can he get him to the next level? And they enter the SEC. It's a little bit of a step down from the Big 12. I know SEC fans don't want to hear that, but the Big 12 is better than the SEC in basketball. This isn't football and baseball. So maybe Oklahoma and Texas, it's a breath of fresh air entering a new league after they take some lumps on the football field.
We've both mentioned the dreaded name Chris Beard. He's over there in Oxford, Mississippi.
Yeah, he's in this league too.
Yeah. So I don't know what the schedule looks like, and I don't know if it has come out officially yet. But what are your thoughts on what would the reception be if Beard returns to Austin, Texas?
Oh shit! I totally went over my head that they're in the same league now.
You were ready to skip all of these storylines and narratives. Going into the draft.
Well, and now, I mean, we just saw in the NCAA tournament too. I think about Rick Barnes. Rick Barnes is going to play Texas every year now.
Yeah, that's
former
fun.
School. Ronnie Terry's his former assistant. Chris Beard's former assistant, Rodney Terry. So you got a lot of familiar faces, and then of course you got the Mike White, Todd Golden every single year with Florida and Georgia. So a lot of SEC's a shit show. It's just like recycle coaches. And how the hell did we not mention Cal? Cal's
I mean, we're getting there.
Kentucky every year. So
we're getting there.
Geez, this league, you're right, man. This actually, in terms of storylines,
it's the Big East from last year. Like storylines galore all over the place.
But it's the Big East on steroids. Really, all they had was Cooley.
Patino.
I guess Patino still had, like, he coached at Providence. He was a Big
and he had
East
the
guy
defending
forever.
national champ, which they'll have again.
Yeah.
But like they had a bunch of storylines last year. Another storyline for the SEC this year is Oklahoma's a new team. Porter Moser was testing waters in the job market. Like that is not a secret. Like he was looking to get out of Norman, Oklahoma. I mean, he hasn't appeared in an NCAA tournament with the Sooners yet. What are your thoughts on Oklahoma entering the SEC? Are they kind of stumbling into this? Really, the league, as you mentioned at the top of the show, is on the come up.
Yeah, it's last year was weird for Oklahoma because they were shooting. They were like a top 25 team for 75% of the year, and then they just completely no pun intended, the wheels fell off the wagon with Boomer Sooner. And what did they lose down the stretch? They lost 6 out of 8. They got blown out in multiple games at Texas to end the year. Then they lost to TCU in a game where they kind of rested their starters like they were in the dance, and then
they
ended up missing. And yeah, it's pivotal
they finished
year.
the year 2-6.
Yeah, 6 out of 8. I mean, that was bad. That was bad, and he took over a good program too. I mean, Lon Kruger had that thing in the dance every single year. For him not to make it 3 straight years, I mean, you could make the argument that kind of speaks to how fucking hard the Big 12 is, but also, like, come on, man, you got to find a way to get to the dance at least once in your first 3 years.
Yeah, I'm interested. I don't know if it's going to be a good transition, a clean transition, but Oklahoma plays a different brand of basketball than 75% of these teams in the SEC.
Yeah.
A lot of these teams have athletes. Oklahoma doesn't quite match them, especially with Porter Moser's scheme. It's a lot like Christian's over there at Mississippi State. Another coaching storyline as we enter the 2025 season, Mark Pope makes the transition also from the Big 12 to the SEC, just as a head coach going from BYU to Big Blue Nation in Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky, and
polar opposites.
Yeah, look, I have my opinions on this, and I'm gonna save it for our draft. I don't know if you want to give away any of yours with that same kind of attitude or thought process, but because we know we'll talk about them again here coming up. But I think that's the biggest storyline left, right? So, like, Mark Pope, your thoughts on the move from BYU to Kentucky?
I actually think he's going to do a good job. I think he was able to really – I thought he did a really good job at BYU last year. Yes, his team was very old, and he had those guys in his program, but I kind of think that he's going to bring some stability more to Kentucky, and I think they may win more in terms of just consistent regular season success. I know Cal was just so up and down at the end. Like they would win 3, then they would lose 2. Then they would get picked off in March Madness every single year. The COVID year was a complete mess, and I really hate when the teams use the COVID year as an excuse. Like everybody else wasn't playing in the fucking season. Duke and Kentucky, I'm talking to you. But yeah, Kentucky was on a downward trajectory. We talked about it, that every other program seemed to be on the way up. Kentucky was on the way down. I think Mark Pope brings a level of consistency and integrity to that program.
I got 2 more quick hitters for you before we get into starting to draft some of these teams on how we think they're going to play out program-wise over the next 5 years. This one's a little bit personal to you. Lamont Paris had a good year at South Carolina last year.
Mm-hmm.
The roster was not able to stay intact. Kind of got bit up by the transfer portal a little bit. Year 2 for Lamont Paris, who was also in some coaching rumors last offseason. Your thoughts in Columbia?
Is this Mizzou 2.0, but a year later? Like, that was the first thing that came to mind. Like, you win a bunch of close games. You did a lot through the portal. You can't retain anybody. Now you got to do it all over again. It's like, I think they're somewhere between year 1 and 2. Like, I don't think it's as bad as it was year 1, but it definitely isn't going to be as good as it is year 2.
And last one, I specifically heard you talking about this guy and this team on Greg Peterson's podcast last week, Missouri, who you just mentioned, going 0-18 last year. in the SEC play. You think they're going to be a little bit better this year, correct?
I mean, fuck, you can't be worse. But it's weird because I didn't think they were that bad last year.
No,
Like,
neither did I.
I couldn't believe that they were 0-for. It still mind blows me that I just kept taking them. I'm like, they have to win a game eventually. No, they literally went 0-20. It was one of the bigger collapses that I've ever seen in my entire life. So kind of like Lamont Paris at South Carolina. No, they're not 8-24 bad, but no, they're not 25-10. Probably I could see South Carolina and Missouri being in that 16-17 win range this year.
All right, we've checked off all the storylines that we're going to hit on at the top of this episode. On the back half of this episode, Mac and I are going to draft head-to-head on the all 16, the new 2 schools from the Big 12, all 16 SEC teams, based on the likelihood of them having the most success over the next 5 years. We'll talk about that after this break. Moonoff and Chris are getting you ready for the NFL season on the Propcast. They got episodes dedicated to season-long props and the awards market all preseason long. Plus, check out CJ Sullivan and his road to 10 million on Bottom Line Bombs. Tune in wherever you get your podcasts over on the SGPN app. The college basketball experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, and you can win up to 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8. Sign up today with promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Sign up today in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with promo code SGP. Rhythm is the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter, data-driven decisions. Unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. Rhythm's predictions have been red hot for WNBA and golf. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And we are back here on the College Basketball Experience. Noah Bieniek joined alongside the host of the College Basketball Experience, Ryan McIntyre. And today on the back half of this SEC episode, talking realignment here, we are going to be drafting teams based on what amount of success we think they will have over the next 5 years. It gives us a good look at, the recruiting class that they have coming in here in 2024. They can turn into some 5th-year seniors, and also Mac offline had mentioned that it's a good sample size to determine how well a coach has done in his tenure at a program. So we decided on 5 years. On the WCC episode, the West Coast Conference episode that we did prior to the SEC, I won a coin flip getting the first overall pick in that draft, and I was able to select Gonzaga. So we valued that as a more valuable number 1 overall selection in the conference than the SEC. So Mac gets the counter with the number 1 overall pick in the SEC. Mac, without further ado, lead us off.
Yeah, and I think you could make the case for multiple teams on this one. This one's more kind of the committee, honestly, who I considered at 1. Maybe they're at 4 and 5 when it comes back around to me. But Roll Tide Roll is going to be my number 1 pick here. Yeah, this isn't football anymore. I love what Nate Oats has been able to do there. Kind of think he validated it even more this year, getting to a Final Four. He's won 2 SEC titles in the last 4 years. Turned down the Kentucky job, basically. He's not going anywhere. I just think he's made for this portal era where he's able to mesh different pieces, mesh different personalities, egos, and he's just been unbelievable at Alabama in his 4-5 year stint there. When I talk about the SEC taking a step, Nate Oats is like the face of what I think of with the SEC taking their basketball to another level. So Nate Oats is my number 1, and the Alabama Crimson Tide are my number 1 program over these next 5 years.
And speaking of the face, I mean, he's on the thumbnail for the College Experience episode today. Yeah. So, And that's a huge honor bestowed upon Nate Oats, right?
Cal got dethroned. Kentucky fans are going to freaking pay us right now for that.
I will say, like, Alabama, 4 straight tournament appearances, which is great for Bama. The defense has been all over the place under Nate Oats. The offense has been consistently top 25, in the country the last 3 years, top 40 in the country in his entire tenure. So Alabama was number 1 on my big board as well. You might end up getting one of the teams that you considered to be number 1 overall back on the turn, because I had prepared for this exact decision. I'm going to go with Auburn at 2 under Bruce Pearl.
Great. Bama, Auburn 1-2. This is great.
The state of Alabama is basketball. Yeah. Like they're on. I mean, not even on the come up. They're here. Like Auburn with the Final Four appearance not too long ago, and they've made a couple of deep runs. But also the sustained regular season success by both of these programs. Alabama, is still, you could say, climbing, still on that trajectory up. Bruce Pearl at Auburn has been super successful. You look at, his offenses over the last, 7 years, all top 50 offensive efficiency. The only one that's kind of the outliers, 2023, which was 46th overall in adjusted offensive efficiency. They still won a game in the NCAA tournament. That, kind of NCAA tournament success has not, come to fruition over the last couple of years, but Auburn's a locked in Bruce Pearl long-term. He chose to stay in Auburn, Alabama, over going into, the coaching portal, and possibly taking a dream job of his if Indiana was to come open. It sounded like he was sitting still, and he didn't go to Kentucky either. So I like Auburn at number 2. Number 3 is where I'm going to take a twist. Like, I think, no. I think Arkansas won big time in getting John Calipari. John Calipari wins in the regular season. The tournament success has eluded him. I'm going with two coaches that have proven it year in, year out that they win in the regular season. Sustained regular season success. At one point, you're just throwing darts at the dartboard in the postseason, the NCAA tournament. At one point, Calipari is going to build a good postseason run with Arkansas, and he continues to recruit well. He was able to pull basically the entire Kentucky team over to Fayetteville with him, and he's beating Kentucky on the recruiting trail right now in the offseason with Mark Pope. So I think he's going to be able to continue to do kind of what he was doing at Kentucky. Not really with the Big Blue Nation brand, but with the Tyson chicken food money. So give me Arkansas at number 3 with John Calipari.
Well, if we're going to talk about regular season success, this guy's got to be at the top of the list. Rick Barnes and the Vols at number 4. I mean,
was he one that you thought you were going to maybe pick at 1 and then think you were going to loop back around?
I thought about it, but they just didn't have. I say they don't have the postseason success. They just went to the Elite 8, and they were right there to beat Purdue too. I mean, them and Purdue played a classic game. So, I mean, they made it to the second weekend, back-to-back years. Rick Barnes, you look at the portal era, 27 wins, 25 wins, 27. They seem to be getting better and better and better. And hey, maybe they knock down that door and get to the Final Four this year. And so I got to go Rick Barnes and the Vols at number 4. It's just a model consistency, tough brand, out tough you. This is where it gets interesting. At number 5.
My pushback, the reason why I passed on Tennessee was Rick Barnes is 69. He's pushing it. Does he make the entire 5-year tenure? I went with Bruce Pearl at 64 and John Calipari at 65. Calipari wants to win for his buddy over there.
How old's Cal?
I mean, he's 65. He wants to go over there and win in Fayetteville for his buddy that just paid him big time money. And then Bruce Pearl, I mean, he could be sitting fat and happy at 64 years old, but they've had a really good regular season success, which Tennessee has had. But the age for Barnes is the only thing that nerves me a little bit. He might not have 5 years in him. We'll see.
We shall see. All right, so at number 5, I feel like I have to take them. I mean, this is a buy low spot. Kentucky's got to be in the top 5. They're fucking Kentucky. Mark Pope, they get one of their own, bring him back home. Rick Pitino's endorsing it. BYU I thought he did a really good job last year. I thought he did as good a job in league outside of maybe Otzelberger and Sampson coaching to finish tied for 5th. He won 20 plus games 4 out of the 5 years at BYU. I know it's a step up going to Kentucky, but I think that he's able to, maybe with his NBA background, he's able to mesh these guys in the portal and play different. He plays an exciting brand of basketball. I think that they're going to be more consistent and make deeper runs with Mark Pope than they did with Calipari these last 4 to 5 years. So get this Arkansas shit out of here. Let's go Big Blue, baby. I got some fans in Lexington, Kentucky tonight.
There you go. So Kentucky, I had them at 7th on my big board.
He's at Noah B77. Tweet him right now.
There you go. I predicted that they'd have a new head coach, and I had them at 7th. For the record, they were not the highest team that I had ranked that I predicted they would have a new head coach. We'll get to them in a second, as they're going to be my second pick here on the turn, as I'm picking 5 and 6, correct? Or 6 and 7?
No, you're picking 6 and 7.
6 and 7.
Alabama,
okay.
Auburn.
Yeah.
Who'd you take 3?
I took Arkansas 3.
Arkansas. And then I took Tennessee and Kentucky.
Okay. So we should be writing these down. We didn't go over them to review on the WCC episode. We're getting our feet under us. So we'll try to review it.
Go back and watch it.
we'll try to review it here at the end of the show. My 7th overall pick, or 6th overall pick, whatever. The first pick on this turn, I'm going with Florida. And I think that this team has a serious chance to win big this year. You look at the roster this year, not only this year, but it gives me the faith that Todd Golden is an excellent recruiter. I mean, he brings in Elijah Martin from the portal this year. He's brought in this entire nucleus from this roster has been recruited via Golden for my knowledge. Walter Clayton, Will Richard is probably the one that Golden did not bring in. Walter Clayton Jr., Will Richard, Elijah Martin, Alex Condon. That's your 4 guys at the top here of this Florida Gators lineup that I think is going to be outstanding this year. I think they're a sleeper candidate to not only win the SEC, but go pretty deep in the NCAA tournament. And that could be the Florida fan in me speaking a little bit as well. But, I'm a believer in the young coach actually, kind of relating to, and he's speaking to this generation of college basketball players. I mean, you look at last year, they finished as one of the hottest teams in the country, finishing the year 27-12. And I think, Golden is hungry. He hasn't had that tournament success yet. And I think he's going to steadily climb here. Any thoughts, pushback on the Florida pick?
No, I mean, you and I were the ones that were high on Florida last year. I know Colby wasn't.
Colby caught on late too.
Yeah, I like Todd Golden. I thought he did a good job at San Fran. Transition year number 1, but sometimes transition years are good. Get your culture in, get your guys in. I like seeing a jump from 16 to 24 wins. And they lost a tough game in March to Colorado. So come back hungrier than ever. Got some good pieces. I think Golden's the right guy there.
Yeah, and we're talking about like success over the next 5 years. I mean, Florida's got this dude, Olivier Rioux, who's like 7'7". I don't know if you've heard of him yet. Coming up, like that's super exciting. And if they can do anything, if he can be anything close to like a Zach Edey, that would be really entertaining for me on Florida, nonetheless. But moving on to 7th overall, I believe I'm going with Texas, and I predict that they're going to have a new coach. I don't know if Rodney Terry is going to finish out the 5-year span. And I think at the end of that tenure, whichever coach that they're going to bring in, because I know Chris Del Conte, I've experienced this offseason with the baseball hire. He's going to hit a home run. He's done it all over the board in a bunch of different sports. Their athletic director, Chris Del Conte, does not settle. Like, if Rodney Terry is not meeting expectation, which are very lofty over there in Austin, Texas currently, stepping into the SEC, I think there could be a quick transition if they find out that Terry's not the guy. And I'm not even saying like going 500 or a little bit over 500 in the SEC is going to be good enough. I think they want to be a contender in the SEC year 1, year 2. And if Terry's not, which I don't think he's going to be year 1 and year 2, I think there's going to be a quick move. And I think there's going to be a home run hire sitting in this chair, not even sitting. He's going to be standing on the sidelines for Texas Longhorns in 2029. So that's my prediction, that Texas is going to benefit from a new coaching change that is going to take them through their current ceiling with Rodney Terry, in my opinion. I know you like Terry, and your opinion might be a little bit different on Texas currently or the next couple of years, but I think the ceiling could be much, much higher for Texas in 3 or 4 years.
Could be, but I could also see him just winning like 22 to 24 games every year. And then
I don't know if Texas would be content with that, though, with losing double-digit games.
Yeah, but I mean, at what point do you move on? If he's winning like 22, 23, we saw that with Barnes. It took forever for them to finally be like, all right, we're tired of this. And sometimes the grass is not always greener on the other side. Shaka was up and down there.
I wouldn't say like Barnes and Terry are the same thing, though, because Terry helped them stabilize something with the Chris Beard situation. And also Terry was signed relatively cheap, if I remember, for 3 years instead of, kind of 4, 5, 6. So I think it would be easy to kind of just buy out his last year and, get on with new.
He's got to have less than 20. But if he goes 20 plus every year, they're not going to be knocking at the door, because in the end, this isn't football too. Like, that's what's nice about some of these SEC jobs is
you got to tell Texas that
you can kind of fly under the radar a little bit till about January, and then it gets magnified.
We saw that with Ohio State this past year.
Yeah, while getting your ass paid. You get these jobs pay 3, 4, 5. Hell, I don't even know what Nate Oats and Pearl are making, and
on their new
Cal,
extensions.
7-8 mil. I mean, these guys get paid and they can fly under the radar, while college football, half the leagues in the goddamn college football playoff now with the expansion. So all right. I got this where it gets good. 8 and 9.
You're picking 9, right? 8 and 9?
8 and 9. Yeah. Yeah. Because I had 2 and 3, then I had 4 and 5, and now I have 6, 7. Yep, 8, 9. So
math.
1, 2. Yeah. Math. Basketball is academics is number 1. Basketball is number 2. SEC, where it means more.
Yes.
So this is hard, because you could make an argument for like Texas A&M, but Buzz Williams never ever stays anywhere more than 5 years. This is year number 6. So you're kind of trying to project some coaches. I'm going to go both Mississippi schools at 8 and 9. I actually think Beard is going to be at Ole Miss longer than people think he's going to be. So Ole Miss is at 8. And I think because of the incident at Texas, Ole Miss took a shot on him. I think it takes a couple more years to be able to separate that from the past. We saw that with Pitino. He's honest. It's amazing that he got the Ole Miss job as soon as he did. But it takes a place like Ole Miss to take a shot on a guy like Beard. They got it to 20 wins last year. Yeah, they weren't that good, but still, him being able to coach up that team wins 20. They're going to win 24, 25 games. They're the next wave of Alabama and Auburn and Tennessee, getting this program 24, 25, 26 wins year in and year out. So this is a bank on Chris Beard, which I've argued is maybe the best coach in college basketball in game. And then at number 9, I mean, this guy's not far behind in terms of an in-game tactician. I think Chris Jans just fits Mississippi State, man. Like, from a personality culture standpoint, comes over from New Mexico State. He wins like 25 to 30 games every year. What does he do at Hail State? Brings stability, 21 wins. Yeah, they play a boring brand of basketball to some people, but it fits, and it's going to win 20 to 22 games year in and year out. Maybe they get a couple more dudes in there like they had through the portal. They get better offensively, and maybe they can get to a Sweet 16 or so. So they're my number 9, and Ole Miss is my number 8.
Yeah, I like both of those picks to go. And then after this next team that I'm going to select, Mississippi State was right there. So I agree with you on that turn. And I'm going to take the team that I had slightly ranked above Mississippi State. And it's also a team that I think is going to have a new head coach at the end of this 5-year tenure that we're talking about. If you were to put a gun to my head, I should say, I think they'll have a new head coach, and it would be Texas A&M with Buzz Williams. Yeah. I think it's a make or break year. If they win this year, yes, they've kind of had some success. They're building towards something. If not, he's probably gone. You look at kind of how that had been transpiring at the end of last year. It was like, okay, is Buzz Williams the 5-year thing? Is this going to come true again, where he's just going to kind of just get kicked to the curb here by Texas A&M? And they're a team that is kind of falling into a ton of wealth with the SEC, and they are swinging the big stick right now also with some coaching hirings, and they saved some money on the baseball hiring. So they're ready to splurge on something, whether, they kind of also didn't hire a huge big ticket item in the football market with Mike Elko, but they got a really good guy. So at both money making sports in the SEC, they've hired 2 really good head coaches. Mike Early will find out what happens with baseball, whether he'll be able to win as a head coach, but he contained that roster, which was the goal, and he's hitting the ball out of the park with the portal right now. I think Texas A&M, they might be a little trigger happy and just confident in themselves hiring coaches. If Texas A&M doesn't have that immediate success next year with this core that they've kind of rode out with 2 or 3 years with Wade Taylor and crew. Who else is on this core next year? It's Zurich Phelps, also from Tennessee, coming in this year, and Anderson Garcia. Those 3 are kind of going to lead this team. I think they've got a really good chance to win and be a top 4 team in the SEC this year. And if so, Buzz Williams can kind of get their confidence back and build towards something. But if not, I really like this program's chances in just this leveling the water. I really don't think that they're going to fall below the Mendoza line, even if they change a new head coach. So I think this is a perfect pick at 10th overall, Texas A&M. And for me at 11, this is where it kind of gets murky. We've got Georgia, South Carolina, Missouri, LSU, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma left. Oh man, I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I've always been a Porter Moser guy. I think the different style of ball might be able to help him. I think it might be able to help them just differentiate themselves a little bit. And you look at some of the short turnarounds after the Saturday games, getting a Monday or Tuesday in the SEC, and facing Oklahoma is going to be tough. I think they're going to be a 500 team this year in the SEC. And this is another guy that I kind of have. Everybody else after this point, I think they're in trouble if they aren't sustaining winning seasons year after year. So I think Oklahoma is going to be my next pick here. What are your thoughts on both the Texas A&M pick and Oklahoma?
Texas A&M was the obvious one. I agreed with you there. It was, like I said, I almost went with them, but I'm like, Buzz isn't going to be there. I don't know who's going to be the head coach.
Yeah.
I guess you could say the same thing for Oklahoma. But at the same time too, with Oklahoma, they could bring in a guy that's been really good at the mid-major, maybe another guy from the Scott Drew tree that's had so much success at the Power 5 level.
We didn't talk about this. This is a storyline that I forgot to mention. I think we kind of floated over it, but we never actually hit on it. Do you think the 2 additions of Texas, Oklahoma are great for football? Do you think they're great for basketball in the SEC? Because I think I drafted Texas 7th overall, and I just took Oklahoma 11th. Like, they're both kind of in the middle. Oklahoma kind of in the bottom.
Yeah. I think it's 2 programs that are always going to be in the hunt for an at-large bid. They don't really have down years where, like, it may be rare with I think the 1 year after the Final Four, Lon's team, Kruger's team was really down, and then I think Texas 1 year with Shaka was really bad. But other than that, man, we kind of joked about it. They're going to be between that 17 and 23 win threshold. Maybe if they get a special talent like Durant or Blake Griffin, and Buddy Hield, they can really take this thing to another level. But I I just think that football's so far ahead, king number one with a lot of these programs, but
Yep.
Until they get the right guy like a Nate Oats, like a Bruce Pearl at a football school, these two programs will be in that kind of 20-ish win range and right on the bubble.
Alrighty. You're on deck or on the clock here with the number 12 overall pick and 13 on the turn.
So what we got? 4 left. We got Georgia left. We got
5. LSU,
5.
South Carolina, Missouri, Georgia, Vanderbilt.
I'm gonna go Georgia next, and I think Mike White quietly won 20 games last year. I know a lot of it because they went to the NIT. I just think that he's a better coach than what's happened at Georgia so far this year. And maybe he's not,
also an elite NIT coach.
Yeah, he's a great NIT coach. I've been a little surprised that they haven't been able to turn the corner, but you look at it, 16 wins to 20 wins. If they can build on that, win 23, 24, then all of a sudden we're talking about a different Mike White era. So I think they're perfect at number 12. And that kind of just transitions me right into another program with South Carolina. I think South Carolina and Georgia are similar basketball jobs. The only difference is South Carolina has the one outlier, the year I was there, Final Four year. Other than that, South Carolina
pump up your own tires a little bit more, buddy.
Yeah, I gotta pump myself. I've been to Final Four of the SEC, but other than that, South Carolina's been a dog shit basketball program. They had not won an NCAA tournament since 1973. Before that, but Lamont did a great job last year, getting 26 wins in year number 2, going from 11 wins. So I kind of think he's somewhere in the middle in that 17, 18, 19 win, him and Mike White. I'll just trust the more consistent pedigree with Mike White slightly over Lamont Paris in South Carolina, but very small margin here. So Georgia, the Dogs, South Carolina, the Cocks, 12 and 13 for me.
Alrighty. I'm getting my number 12 team on the big board. So I'm getting some good ADP value with LSU. I think they're an older, experienced team entering next year. I don't know how hot that seat is for Matt McMahon.
Yep.
But what I do know, whether it's for McMahon or the next guy after him, the LSU basketball program and athletic department has been willing to pay and spend some money in the sport of basketball. We saw it with Will Wade. And God damn it, since I mentioned his name, he is still coaching over there at Lake Charles. He survived this year's coaching carousel. He's still in your backyard. You can go kind of get rid of the old ex-girlfriend and possibly make a good run at it again, or not. Yeah. Like, you can still hire another really good coach. So once again, I'm going with this angle that if there's possibly a new coach at the end of this 5-year tenure, I think LSU has a program that should still have some success at the end of 5 years here. The next team that I'm going to go with is Missouri. I am going to take Missouri for the only reason being that you mentioned it's going to be hard not to be worse than 0-18. Like, it's impossible unless you go 0-18 again. But, like, Dennis Gates is a winner. Like, with Cleveland State in the Horizon League, had made a couple of runs in the postseason with the Vikings in the Horizon League tournament. I think whether it's him or somebody new in Columbia, Missouri, in Como, Missouri is going to be a little bit of a better basketball program than what we've got left.
Yeah, I mean, LSU, I see your argument on that. Yeah, I maybe probably should have taken them. They're a boomer bust program, like you said.
Yeah.
Is the same argument made for Will Wade as it was as I did with Chris Beard, though, where you might need to wait another year or two, maybe even another 2 to 3 years to really – because there's been rumors that Sankey has told ADs that you can't hire him because –
oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know. Now, do I ultimately think that that's going to go forever? No.
You can't hire him because he's LSU's and let them go after it next year.
Yeah. Strong ass offer. I hope he gets back in the SEC. Actually, I hope he comes to Big 12. I hope he comes to the Big 12 with one of these programs. Try to think who's a hot seat. Get Will Wade back in there. But yeah, I think that this is clear, and this kind of gets us to our last place or I mean, who we think is going to be in the basement. And honestly, I think the guy's a really good coach. Mark Byington turning JMU into a power, won an NCAA tournament game, 32 wins last year, 13, 15, 22, 32. So he built it each and every year. Consistent winner at Georgia Southern. But he's got his work cut out for him, man. I mean, Vanderbilt is a hard-ass job. I know they're investing more in their basketball program, but you just have to be so unique there if you're going to win, kind of like Kevin Stallings was. You have to play a unique brand of basketball, recruit a unique player, and just be completely different and be a unicorn in that league if you have any chance at having sustained success.
Yeah, Nashville's attractive to old teenagers, young kids in their 20s, but the basketball court's not.
No, it's like fucking stupidest shit ever.
Yeah, like you talk about unique jobs. That's a unique court, and not many are jumping at the chance to go to Vanderbilt over the other 14 schools in the SEC. Missouri Vandy is kind of a toss-up for that 16th overall spot.
Missouri's got to rock his home court though. When they're decent,
when they're rolling, yes.
Yes, I mean you think about it with
because 2 years ago when they hosted Kansas, that place was nuts.
And Frank Haith back in the Big 12 days, and Kwanzaa had it going there for a year or so. I mean they've been good. They've never been consistent. They're kind of like LSU. It's boom or bust.
Yeah. All right, so recapping today's draft of SEC teams that we think will have the most success at the end of this next 5-year tenure. Mac selected Alabama number 1 overall. I took Auburn and Arkansas on the 2-3 turn. He responded with Tennessee, Kentucky at 4 and 5. Then I took Florida at 6, Texas at 7. Mac then took Ole Miss at 8, Mississippi State at 9. I then took Texas A&M at 10, Oklahoma at 11. Mac selected Georgia at 12, South Carolina at 13. I went with LSU at 14 and Missouri at 15, the Tiger two-step in that turn. And then Mac finished us off with Vanderbilt 16th overall, last but not least. Mac, go ahead and finish this thing off with that. And anything else that you want to say?
No, this was so much fun. I'd go check out our WCC. Yeah, this felt like we were giving out our preseason rankings already. But we're going to do that league by league from a future standpoint. Probably August, September-ish is when we'll start that thing up. So less than 2 months from now. But yeah, man, I mean, we cover college basketball year round over here at the College Basketball Experience. If you've been following, we've been doing our summer coaches tour. Tomorrow we got Ryan Peden, head coach of the Illinois State Redbirds over there in the Missouri Valley. We've had 6 or 7 already on. We're going to have plenty more coming through this year. It's been a cool series to start up, and we're going to keep this thing going for years and years to come. And then I'm glad that we were able to start this up once Noah got done with college baseball in Omaha, and we could talk a little conference expansion, talk a little macro. We focus so much micro in season, game by game. Look at the trajectory and reflect on the last 3-4 years, look 4 to 5 years ahead in this ever changing landscape of college basketball. So, no, you got anything else before I get us out of here?
I'm looking forward to the schedule that we're going to build here. We started off with WCC and SEC. I can't wait till we return. We're going to be coming back on Wednesday, and I can't wait to see what we've got next in store.
We do. That's why you got to turn on your notifications. Make sure to subscribe to all the channels, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your platform. Go check out the College Baseball Experience first with Noah Bieniek. He's breaking down all the coaching hires, MLB draft. He's got it
July
all.
14th.
July 14th. That's less than a week. And, of course, college football with Colby and those guys breaking down all 134 team previews. And go check out the Big 12 Experience, Texas and Oklahoma fans. You're done getting your ass kicked in that league in basketball, or you're jumping over the SEC. Well, you can check out the Big 12, best league in the land, with me, Rush, and Troy. That's all I got. We look forward to being back here tomorrow for the coaches tour, or coaches summer school coaches tour. Sorry, I can't talk right now. I've been on the mic for 5 straight hours. But yeah, can't wait to continue these conference realignment discussions. Before we get into conference previews, He is at Noah B77. I am at Moneyline_Moneyline Mac. We are the College Basketball Experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we are out of here.